The existence of Salve Regina College is a miracle, because I remember Robert Gillette gave us his house and a land, and some people said it's a waste of time. You know how some people are. Well, I said, if it's God's work, it'll go. If it's not God's work, it won't go. But we'll go. So we went. So then we have Salve Regina.
So everything that constituted Salve was in one building. The cafeteria wasn't operating the first year. They had to eat in this big dining room next to the kitchen. But all the classrooms, the offices, the dormitories, everything, just in one building.
You had this veranda, and you looked right at out at the cliff walk. And this was the whole setting of the graduation. So it was very different. You went and all crushed into a hall, you know, and it gave an identity that most college graduations did not have, which was that beautiful atmosphere of the cliff walk and the openness. And we sat on the piazza, you know, on the openness. It was beautiful. And they were out there.
I think there was a trust and they knew we were there for them, you know, that we weren't just making a salary, working for a salary, because we didn't get any.
I arrived at Salve Regina, which was college in those days, in 1957. My overall feeling about my experience was just wonderful. I had to work very, very hard. I discovered to myself when Salve experienced its 50th anniversary a few years ago, I said to myself, you know, you were a pioneer.
I had just finished my Bachelor of Science degree in nursing education at Catholic University that year, June 1948. Salve Regina had opened in September 47, and in September 48, the administration decided they were going to start a nursing degree program. And I was assigned to start it. So, as some of my colleagues said at the time, "You're doing what?" I said, "I'm going to start a degree program in a brand new college." They said, "Fools rush in where angels fear to tread." Because at that time, baccalaureate degree for nursing was very rare. It was something new. And it wasn't really accepted by a lot of the other nursing educators. However, I decided that that was what I believed in for nursing, so I would proceed and do the best I could. And at that time, there was Oka Court, which had been in operation for about a year, from 47 to 48. And the owners of Oka Court had just donated the second building, which had been the stables for the estate, and we called it Mercy Hall. So that gave us two buildings. The interesting thing about Mercy Hall was it had a chemistry lab and a biology lab and a home economics lab, and also residence. And Sister Constance Landrigan, who came with me at that time to Salve that year, she and I were assigned to live in Mercy Hall. So we lived upstairs in the living quarters, and there were about, I would say, 25 students living at Mercy Hall at that time. That was all that we had for a few years.
I was appointed. I didn't choose to go there. I was appointed, as we were just appointed. You know, you went where you were told to go. Well, I was happy to go, and I was very happy the whole time I was there. Yeah. We often got many blessings from that old obedience where we just went where we were told, and things turned out so remarkably well for us. We got God's blessing on it.
The important thing was to educate the whole person, not just their intellect in one particular area of study. I think we as sisters expected the best to be provided all of the time. So each of these improvements that came were just another indication of our giving the best to the ones that were there.
We didn't have what specifically is referred to now as the mission statement, but basically what is in that was part of our everyday life.
I don't think that there was anything written, but we lived it, you know, through the community as a sister, and then just carried it over into the college and what we did there. And then I think love, mercy and love go together, and I think they felt that.
Being a Sister of Mercy, I was enveloped in all of that and felt that there wasn't anything I could do better than to go there and provide that kind of a mission into the nursing profession, which they were doing all over the country, of course, other Sisters of Mercy, not only in 3-year schools of nursing, but other colleges of nursing, such as St. Xavier's in Chicago. They had already had a department of nursing there. And there was one down in Pennsylvania, too, at the Misericordia College in Pennsylvania. So I was carrying on the tradition, and very happy to do that. Very privileged to do that, I should say.
In Honduras, you know, we have Sisters of Mercy in Honduras. Well, they had Hurricane Fifi, which devastated the place. So 3 of the girls came along with me. They had to pay their own passage, air passage. They stayed with us at the convent, San Vicente de Paul, and we had a boarding school at the time, but there was no school because of the hurricane. So they slept in the dormitory, but they lived with us at the convent. I was so proud of those girls. They were wonderful. We went down to the town, and we were called a brigada, a brigade, some kind of a brigade, and we were asked to report. So when we did and we came back, we were given medicines, mostly vitamins and worm medicine. You know, everybody had worms. And then this young fellow drove us out in a pickup. I in the cabin with him, the girls behind, and they were so good about it. And we just drove up what seemed like rivers or a sea. You know, it was all, I don't know how the guy made it, but he did. And at one point he wept. He said, we were the first ones to ever get to this particular village. And the girls were so gracious to them. You know, we had drinking water because, the water was no good. They gave up their drinking water. They didn't mind stretching out on the back of that pickup, They were just great, and I was so proud of them.
I was on the committee that was writing the mission statement for the catalog. And I know that I was very impressed by one particular professor who was there, he was not a Catholic, but he insisted on the Catholic viewpoint being written up in the statement. And somebody said, but it's not just Catholics that are coming. And I can remember him so well saying, it doesn't make any difference. It is a Catholic college, and that should be manifested in the mission statement. And I think when we finished the mission statement, it was very evident there.
There's a different student body than there is today. There were some adults in it, quite a few. And I felt that I was providing a need for them, for their own defense. That's the way they did now. I hope that I did. So I took the philosophical and the theological approach, both, because I had to feel that some of them only had a basis to understand the philosophical. Then you have to build on the theological.
At that time, people were thinking about how you're going to get a job afterwards. That was the thing. And teaching and nursing were the two things that they were almost sure of getting a job. And that's another thing our students have done very well. You know, they have very good professional standing in jobs. They have done very well. They've done us proud, I think.
Is in the early days, we always had 100% passing on our state boards. And I think it was because we had small groups, and we did work very, very diligently with them, preparing them for the licensing exam. We always had 100% passage for a long, long time. The other thing is how successful our graduates have been throughout the years. They really became leaders within the state of Rhode Island particularly, and many of them became nursing educators and went to other programs, taught at Rhode Island College and URI as well as our own. One of the big projects that you had to have in nursing education was you had to have national accreditation for your students to be accepted into graduate school, and most of them did want to go on for graduate school. That was to have accreditation from what was then called the National League for Nursing Education, and it was quite a feat to accomplish that for established schools that had been established a long time. But we were considered like an infant in the whole system. So we decided, well, we were going to try for it anyway. And at the time, Sister Rosalia Flaherty was the academic dean. And she and I had gone to high school together and had entered together. We were very good friends, and we worked very well together. But we did not have all of the resources that other places had to achieve this. But she was a tremendous educator and administrator. And because of her, I think, and the two of us working together and using her secretary, one secretary, to get all of this material together, we decided that we would apply. And so we did apply, and in December of 1960, we received the word that we had received the accreditation of the National League for Nursing, National League for Nursing Education. And we were, of course, just so overwhelmed with joy because of it, because we were the first in the state of Rhode Island. Well, at that time, the only other program was URI. But they had been established a couple of years ahead of us, but had not applied yet for this national accreditation. So that made it especially pleasurable for us that we had achieved it.
Overall, I had some very fine experiences. That first year, I had a group of girls, majors in the junior class, who were very, very bright. Some of the brightest people I had ever come in contact with.
They feel that they got the best education that anybody could possibly have gotten. They say that consistently. And I don't say anything to them to bring that out. But that's the answer they always give. I got the best education there was to receive. And those were the best years of my life. I learned things that I never thought I was going to learn. And, you know, they make me feel very satisfied that we did do things that were beyond the subject matter that we were teaching, and that we did make them realize that there were important things in their lives that they had to take care of besides the work they were doing, or inculcated in their work if that's what they what it meant.
Yes, I'm just overcome by the size of it. And you used to be able to walk every place, but in those days people walked anyway. Nobody had a car, and there was no way of getting from the college into Newport to a dentist or shopping unless you walked. No other form of transportation. Now you need the car to go around campus.
Well, of course, the school kept growing. I mean, the university was college then, Salve. And that kept growing and improving all along. You know, it's come a long way. Indeed, it has, and it's still going a long way. Oh, yes, we're very proud of Salve.
My overall experience is very, very positive. It was a great, great place. And then nothing, as Sister Norma said, makes you more impressed than what Salve is doing now. I mean, what it has done, what it has become over the years with all the input and with all the wonderful people involved at all levels, teaching and staff and administration and students. It's a great credit to the founding mothers, I guess I would say.
The people that were in Oka Court, in the Oka Court dormitory, where they had 5 and 6 in a room. Of course, the rooms were big enough to manage them. But even so, you know, not that much privacy. When they came, they waited until we were coming out from Mass. And then they came downstairs, crying, still in their night clothes, the sheets and blankets and pillowcases trailing behind them. They thought we were going to get mad. And instead, we just stood there and laughed at them because they were so silly. But that's the way they felt. They did not want to leave Oka Court and go over to that new dormitory where there's only be 2 in a room. No way. They didn't want that.
I think it's just so amazing. Actually, it's miraculous to think of what it was in 1947, 1948, and what it is now. But we've had so many beautiful and wonderful leaders within the community and within the college itself, so that each generation as it came along did a wonderful job.
The chaplain was well accepted by the 400 in Newport and very often invited to their homes for dinner. And they aired all their complaints to him, and he would come back and share them with us. But he was able for it. He used it really as a form of ministry in a nice way, and they would take it from him where they might not from everybody else. Well, anyway, Mrs. Brugier, she complained loud and long to him about the noise the girls made going down by her house to Mercy Hall. And she commented the whole recital by saying, and of all things, they chew gum. And at that time, their chewing gum was the least of our worries.
I can remember when I taught there a few years ago, I always began the class with, "Let us recall the presence of God." Be quiet. Recall the presence of God. Finally, one student said to me, "I get it." You know? So just that much, just to...
It was a great experience for me personally. I had wonderful people, friends among the faculty, and I guess my personality was such that among the students I could enjoy them, but I was more reserved. I guess that's the word I'd like to use. Whether that's the correct word, I'm not sure. But I certainly did, and I think the older and the farther removed from it you get, the more you appreciate that type of experience. At least I did.
When we were building that O'Hare Academic, we were getting federal money for the science labs. And the architects, particularly one of them, was so frustrated with us because we would go in and say we didn't want this. Like they'd put an organic laboratory next to a physiology lab, which didn't go, And we told them that it didn't go and that we didn't want it that way. But then they'd come back with their plans again after they'd say they were going to change them, and they'd be exactly the same thing, only worse maybe. Now, another thing they were doing, where they were putting our supply rooms out facing the ocean, and they were putting us out into the smelly labs, And we didn't like that, so we wouldn't take it. We had it changed. We were just as determined as they, maybe more so.
In those years, we also slept in the dormitories with them and with a proctors. And I remember I was in Miley Hall, and I had a mix of freshmen and sophomore students. And at that time, there was a large number, the balance of students. They always took 40 nursing students. So I had quite a few nursing students on my card. And one night, it was about 10 o'clock, and I could hear this rowdy, laughing and talking and everything. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So I got up and I went down the corridor, listening to each room. And way down, I found the room. The noise had gone through the pipes, the heating pipes, and that's how I heard it in my room. So I had a mom to throw out of that room.
Sister Hilda Miley, who was the initiator of all of this to begin with. They say that when she was thinking about Sisters of Mercy in Providence having a college, that she started a library under her bed by storing up the books that were going to be going into the library, because she knew that to have an institution of higher learning, you had to have a beautiful library and a well-equipped library, and that's how she started. And her dream was that we would have Salve Regina College, and never dreaming it would be in Newport, however. So that was all in God's plan, too, that we eventually, after so many years of trying to start the college and not being successful because of different circumstances, when Mr. Gillette offered Orca Court to the Bishop of Providence, and the Bishop of Providence, he wanted it for educational purposes. The Bishop of Providence said, what will I do with it? Oh, I'll give it to the Sisters of Mercy. And so the Sisters of Mercy, with all of their foresight and courage, said, all right, we'll take it. And at that time, people in Rhode Island used to say, Newport? Where's Newport? Because the people from Newport didn't go over the bridge in our direction, and we, on the other side of the bridge, didn't go over the bridge in that direction very much, except once a year to go to the beach. So it was quite an undertaking, an enterprise, which was blessed. And I'm sure Mother Mary, Sister Mary, Hilda Miley, is very pleased when she sees it today.